Danny said he always wanted to be one of the elevator operators that got to sit on those cool little seats and punch the buttons. Yeah, because when you're that little, you can't punch the buttons because you're not tall enough. Yeah. Most people want to be a fireman at some point. That's always a neat thing. Some people want to be policemen. But what happens between 5 and 6 in this country is that little girls and little boys get to see the media. What did you want to be, Jerry?
When I was little, I wanted to be a cashier because I thought you could take all the money out of the cashier.
That's great. That's great. College fund, yes. Yes. All right. So what happens between 5 and 6 is that children can suddenly see media, and they can see G-rated movies. So I want you to tell me some of the cartoons and G-rated movies that you remember. Tom and Jerry. What sex were Tom and Jerry's, boys or girls? Boys. Okay. Mary Poppins, okay. Shirley Temple, okay. Roadrunner, all right. Little Rascals. How many girls were in Little Rascals? Darlene, yeah. Three Stooges, okay. Yeah, it's your favorite, I know. So I want you throughout the day or so to think about this, and what you will find is almost entirely all of the cartoons that we grew up with and all the G-rated movies are about males. Even Finding Nemo has one girl, Dory, and the rest are males, and then you've got mom and dad. So I'm talking about females in movies that have names, not just the random girl that's swimming around. The And, Darlene And. In 1985, there was a cartoon that said, "No movies are about women." And then the other character said, "Well, what do you mean? How does it have to be that?" And she said, and in the cartoon it said 3 things. It needs to have 2 named women, not Darlene And. They need to talk to each other for over 2 minutes about something that's not about a man. And so it started to be a joke. Except in 2004, it got picked up when they did a 2-year study of movies and films and cartoons and all of that genre, everything G-rated for children, and found that very few could they find that had 2 named women that spent in 2 minutes in a conversation in the entire movie that wasn't about a man. So at that point, they said, okay, and Stockholm, Sweden picked this up, and they wrote a computer program, that could go through a 2-hour movie in 90 seconds, and it would pick up women speaking, and then it would pick up what the women were saying, and they found that it was a very small portion that had 2 named women speaking 2 minutes about something that didn't include a man. Pretty interesting. Then they found in groups like Congress and in groups like big meetings where they were initially mostly men, and females started coming in, that as soon as the saturation of females into the group got to 17%, which is such a random amount, but at 17%, then everybody, including the females, would go, oh yeah, we've got a lot of females here. 17%. I can remember first going into becoming a deaconess in the North Carolina Synod, and we were all up at the church camp, and we were going through the different things that when you're going through candidacy that you do. And there were 2 of us, and we remarked, this is the only time we've never had to wait in line for a bathroom stall. So we fast forward up to when I left the Grand Canyon Synod, and we were laughing, but it was kind of nice because we would have to wait for bathroom stalls because enough women had come into it at that point in time. So the purpose of this is that the role models for our little girls are starting to be there. But I think we all want Gracie to realize she can be and do anything she wants to be. Gracie is a child of this congregation. And I think everybody sitting in here kind of takes a little bit of ownership for her. But those of us ourselves that have grandchildren and great-grandchildren see that too. You see, Danny and I have this granddaughter who both of her parents are teachers, and she grew up in schools and going to schools with her parents, and you wouldn't think she'd have any fears at all. And as soon as she turned 6 and went into first grade, she calls the night before she starts and she says, "Dee Dee and Yaya, I'm scared to go to school tomorrow." That's the first time we'd ever heard this small child be afraid of anything. And so I thought for a moment, and Danny and I looked at each other because we weren't sure what to tell her. And I said, "I want you to sit down this afternoon and I want you to watch the movie Moana." Who here has seen Moana? And I said, "I want you to watch Moana, and I want you to see how brave Moana was, and when you go to school tomorrow, I want you to be brave like Moana." And so Moana has this beautiful necklace that her grandmother gave her, and so Eleanor found a bracelet that I had taken her that had been my mother's, and she wore that to school. And the next day I said, "Were you afraid at school?" And she said, "No, I am Moana." So for her sake, there was a movie that had 2 females talking over 2 hours, 2 minutes, about something other than men. So here are some numbers for you. Of the 101 top-grossing G-rated films, 72% speaking roles are male. More than 4/5 of the narrators are males. G-rated movies. When Brave and Catching Fire, Brave is a Disney movie and Catching Fire is part of the series. And what do they do in Brave and Catching Fire? What sport do they undertake? Archery. When those 2 movies came out, 105% of the new archers were females. Do you see how much having a female being represented on the screen impacted this whole group? And I've got a friend whose daughter is in high school now, and she's on the archery team, and it looks like she could very well be going to the Olympics. And she is right in this age group that saw Catching Fire and Brave. So what we know is that movies do impact us, and that when we listen to them and watch them, they impact who we want to be and what we want to do. The other thing that's hard is in G-rated movies, the majority of the females there are dressed in provocative clothing. Why would you do that? They are sexualizing the little girls very young, and the males aren't dressed that way. So again, it's something else that we are allowing to happen in our movies. Movies are like books in that they give us something to learn outside of us. They give us another avenue and another venue to see the world around us, and that's why they're important. And if we cut our children off from that completely, then we're not really being fair to them. But it's kind of hard, especially knowing now 2 women, 2 minutes of conversation that aren't about a man. So here are some, oh, I lost my sticky with that on there. There was a list of movies that I had that were good. Oh, well. Nemo was one that didn't have the females in it. Mary Poppins does not have 2 women having 2 minutes worth of conversation. It's got the women throughout it, but they don't have 2 minutes worth of conversation. Interestingly enough, American Hustler does. It has 2 named women having a 2-minute conversation over nail polish. Now that's a deep subject matter content. So it was real interesting what they did have and what they didn't have. So when we look back into our gospel and we look back into the miracles that happened, we have this woman coming forward to Jesus about her daughter. And we hopefully have learned enough today to change a difference in the way that we look at little girls and movies and topics, that we want to protect our daughters and our granddaughters and our great-granddaughters as far as what's out there and nurturing them to be who they are called to be. And so the mother goes to Jesus, and when you're pleading with someone and when you want something from someone, you get really big and you put your hands out and you put your arms out and you plead. And when you do this, this makes you strong because it unifies all of this with your body, and you plant your feet on the floor and you go, please, God. Have you ever done that in desperation? Please, God. And that's what the woman did. But when you're fearful and you're afraid, you become little bitty and you become tiny and you curl up in a little bitty ball. And you put your fingers in your ears, and you close your eyes, and you want to block out the rest of the world. And we can't do that because our young girls are asking us to open our ears and to open our mouth and to make a difference and to say we want the best for our children and we want to do the best that we can. Because when you get little bitty and you get small and you close your ears and you're tight in, you're losing all your power in the world. And if you remember Jesus up on the cross, he took the stance with his feet nailed together and his arms out to all of us, engulfing all of us and saying to all of us, you are my children. You are the loved ones. You are the people that I am dying up here for, because I love each and every one of you. Jesus became big, and he became strong in his weakness. He didn't curl up in a little ball. He didn't put his fingers in his ears, and he didn't keep quiet. No, Jesus never kept quiet. So I invite you all to be like the woman and like the man who couldn't talk or hear before, and be loud, to go out and share your faith, to go out and when you see young people, to talk to them and to encourage them. And how wonderful today to have the scholarship applicants and be able to give them the scholarships, to be able to see these backpacks and to bless these, to be able to have something tangible for people to go out into the world and to say, I am loved by Jesus Christ. And as you watch the next movie, check and see if there's 2 named females that talk to each other for 2 minutes, not about any men. And yeah, if you need to watch American Hustler, so be it. They talk about fingernail polish. And all God's people say, amen.